councillors, senior staff members, members of the public in the gallery, and I'd like to special welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Hackney. Nice to have you with us, and certainly to welcome to the members of the press and the press gallery. Very warm welcome to this July council meeting, and we will acknowledge country at the present moment. The Shire of Esperance acknowledges the Kepikal Wadjuri people of the Noongar Nation and the Naju people, who are the traditional custodians of this land and their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and we extend that respect to other Aboriginal Australians today. So, councillors, the first item on our agenda is item 2 and the attendance, and we have apologies from Councillor Chambers, Deputy Shire President, and also Councillor Oborne at the present time. We would then go to granted leave of absence. Do we have any listed granted leave of absence from any councillors at the present time, Mr. CEO? Okay, so then we go to item 4, applications for leave of absence. Any councillors seeking leave of absence at this meeting, councillors? Take it no, there's no councillor seeking leave of absence. So we go to item 5 on the agenda, which is the announcement by the person presiding without. He has a, sorry? Yes, we'll deal with it now. Sorry, I won't move through that. So Councillor Chambers has sought a leave of absence, and there are dates there that I can't quite read from here. 13th of August to the 20th of August. Okay, so councillors, we will deal with that. Can someone move that we grant leave of absence? Moved by Councillor O'Donnell, seconded by Councillor De Haas. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Against? That's carried 7-0. There's item 5, announcements. There's nothing that I have to offer at this stage. We go to item 6 on the agenda, which is declarations of members' interest. Councillors, is there any councillor declaring a financial interest on any item? No. Then we go to declarations of proximity interest. Any councillor declaring a proximity interest? No. Sorry, Councillor Grant, were you?
It's probably both. I'd like to declare a impartiality and proximity interest based on item 13.1, which has come out of the Bushfire Advisory Committee, as I have land in the vicinity of the Beaconera Road regarding the Horizon Power issue, and I'm also, I chaired the committee, but I'm also a fire control officer. So
thank you. Councillor Graham has declared that item. Is there any other declarations of proximity interest? If not, I'd move on to declarations of impartiality. Councillor Graham has declared an impartiality in regards to his status as a bushfire control officer. Any other declarations of Councillor McMullen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to declare an impartiality interest in item 12.1.1, development application, shade sale structures, lot 489 Sinclair Street, as the proponent is my brother.
Thank you. Any other declarations of impartiality? Councillors, I wish to declare a declaration of impartiality on 13.1, which is the Bushfire Advisory Committee agenda from the 7th of June, and I declare it on the basis that my son is listed as a fire control officer for the Beaumont district of Bushfire Brigades. Let's pass that across, CEO. So that, no more declarations of interest. Okay, so then we go to public question time. And I note that Sue Small, you have a public question?
No,
You don't? Right, thank you. Thank you. You're listed maybe speaking. Right. Dr. Kai Newkirk, you've got a public question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. During the briefing, I became aware that Shire owns block, and it's listed 77 on 47 John Street. The question I had, does Shire own also block 75 and block 76?
Okay. Mr. Okay, CEO's taken that one on notice, Dr. Newkirk, and he'll advise you accordingly.
Thank you. No, that's all there.
No other questions? Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Hegney, do you have any questions?
no.
Thank you. And you're most welcome. Mr. Ted Gray, you indicated you had a question for public question time.
I have questions, also known as questions on notice.
Okay.
I'd like to hear on the question.
We'll take your question and then we'll make whether we give you an answer or take it on notice. But
3rd of April of this year was the 10th anniversary of an incident, traffic incident, at the intersection of then Murray Road and South Coast Highway. The 3rd of April of this year was the 10th anniversary of a road incident on the corner of then Murray Road and South Coast Highway, where a young woman from the Netherlands, Susan Van Schut, died. Subsequent to that, there was a trial and an inquest. Since then, Charthouse Lane now feeds on and off South Coast Highway onto Murray Road, and Murray Road at the intersection is closed off. The purpose of my questions relate primarily to road safety, and a few months ago it was Road Safety Week. It was known for long then. And it also arises, because I was involved in those matters, there was a road safety audit done by the Shire of Esperance that was received in October 2010. And the accident was 3rd of April 2012. There were a couple of things in the road safety audit, a couple of things that were listed that could easily have been dealt with: the absence of stop lines, a stop sign partially obscured by a branch, street name signs missing, fairly small matters. A few days after the incident, the tree was chopped down. The point of my question is, with these small things that could be done in regard to road safety, should be acted on sooner than later, because it could make a difference. And as the author, or to quote Mr. Robert Morgan, a road safety engineer, in this article, he says, countless intersections lie in wait to catch unsuspecting drivers simply for want of a program dedicated to identifying all the sites that have basic traffic signing and road design traps, and applying low-cost engineering remedies. So with that longer introduction, my questions are, does the Shire of Esperance have a policy that requires any report given to or commissioned by CEO or any administration staff that may affect council in the performance of its roles, to produce that report to council within a prescribed period of time? If not, why not? Second question, what policy or directives does the Shire of Esperance have in place for Shire staff or others to monitor and report on any matters which may affect road safety in the Shire of Esperance? For instance, circumstances where branches may partially or completely obscure stop signs, or the existence of damaged or insufficient road signs. And finally, what formal lines of communication does the Shire of Esperance have with Main Roads to address issues of road safety involving local roads and main roads where their interests and responsibilities may converge? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gray, for those questions and the piece of history that you shared with us. But I think it's best that we take that on notice and we give you, investigate that question and give you an explanation in regards to policies and the processes that we use for road safety. We're certainly very aware of road safety, and but what you were talking about, that incident over 10 years ago, there's no councillor or senior staff member here tonight that would have been part of the council at that time. But certainly I can assure you that road safety is an important issue. I'm not saying that we haven't missed one or two sites around that might need attention at this moment, but we're certainly driving road safety where we need to, and that's the explanation I've got for you. You'll get the answer to that precise questions you've asked in due course if you can leave those questions with us or leave it with the Minutes Secretary. Thank you. So that was the only question you had, Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll put that one there for the show to deal with. So, councillors, we move on then into item 10, which is the confirmation of the minutes. And before I call for a mover on that, I understand Councillor O'Donnell's got some important information to share with us concerning this item.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just noticed two errors in the minutes of the OCM from last month, and it is that my name appears as present, however I was away, and the first item there's a typo where my name appears in moving of this item, and however I was away.
Okay, thank you very much. So the corrections can be made, and subject to those corrections, we'll adopt the minutes. Subject to those corrections being put in place, we will adopt the minutes. Can we record something against that motion as an explanation, please? Councillors, you understand the explanation from Councillor O'Donnell and to get the those words will be inserted into the motion. Okay. So it's it was Councillor O'Born who was the mover of the motion. You've got adequate notice there, councillors. Is someone prepared to move the confirmation of the minutes with those additions? Moved by Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor De Haas. It's moved and seconded. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Graham?
No.
Okay. Councillor De Haas is a seconder. Is there a speaker against the motion? Confirmation of the minutes with those additions. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried 7-0. Okay, so we move on into the Delegates' reports without discussion, and there's a pretty light month on this one, I think, so we've got the listings up there now, and the first one is Councillor Oborne, who's absent, so she's listed her where she's attended and represented council, so we go, the next one we go to is Councillor Flanagan.
Nothing further to add, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councillor O'Donnell, you're next listed.
Thank you, as tabled.
Thank you. Councillor Graham, nothing to add. Okay. Councillor De Haas,
As tabled, thank you, Mr. President.
Councillor Horam,
No, nothing to add, thank you.
and Councillor McMullen.
Nothing to add, I guess with the exception of the audit committee meeting that we just had today, but
Thank you. And Councillor Chambers is not with us, but he hasn't sent in any items to have recorded there. Mine are listed there, councillors, and I could also add the audit meeting today if, for, I guess, for being a perfect report, but we can do that later. Thank you very much, councillors. All councillors are represented council on those various occasions when you attended and represented council on our behalf. We now move into the matters requiring determination of council, and in item 12.1 of external services we have the item development application shade sale structure Sinclair Street. Are there any questions you might have to Mrs. Phillips on this item, councillors? Any questions? Straightforward? Well, someone prepared to move the motion concerning this item? Moved by Councillor Horam. Move the officer's
I
recommendation.
will move the officer's recommendation. The council approved development application 10.2022.5037.1 for shade sale structure at lot 489 in brackets 21 Sinclair Street, Castletown, subject to the following conditions 1 through to 8 and advice notes 1 through to 6.
Thank you, Councillor Horam. Do you wish to speak to your motion? Oh, what, I haven't got a seconder. Seconder, Councillor Flanagan. Councillor Horam, you can speak to your motion.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward, and being shade sales, it's not like it's something permanent, and if it is something objection further down, easily removed. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the, is there a speaker against the motion? Does the seconder wish to speak to in favour of the motion?
Nothing further to add, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Is there a speaker against or an amendment? No speakers against or no amendment. I put the motion to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that's carried 7 votes to nil. Next item, councillors, is a road dedication. This is item 12.2.1 on page 17 of your agenda, and the recommendation is on page 18 of your agenda. Any questions you might have on this item, councillors, that you would ask of Mr. Walker? No questions? Got a full explanation at last week's agenda briefing? Okay, thank you. So is there a mover to the recommendation and the motion? Moved by Councillor Flanagan. Wish to read it, Councillor Flanagan?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the officer's recommendation that Council number 1 support the dedication of a portion of Lot 77 on Plan 002260 as road reserve. 2, request the Minister of Lands to dedicate the 17.43 square metres of portion of land, being portion of Lot 77 on Plan 002260 as a road reserve. And 3, advise the Minister of Lands that in accordance with section 56 subsection 4 of the Land Administration Act 1997, that the Shire recognises that it is liable to indemnify the Minister against any claim for compensation in an amount equal to the amount of all costs and expenses reasonably incurred by the Minister in considering and granting the request.
Thank you, councillor Flanagan. Is there a seconder to the motion? Seconded by councillor Oram. Councillor Flanagan, you wish to speak to this item?
It's self-explanatory in terms of the officer's report. It's simply a common sense proposal to excise a small portion of land to accommodate the existing road reserve from a section of land that's owned by the Shire. Thank you.
Is there a speaker against the motion? Does the seconder wish to speak to the motion?
Not really, I think common sense prevails. It's a good idea, thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion or an amendment? No speaker against, no amendment. I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? Against, that is carried. 7 votes to nil. We go to page 20, councillors, which is the item. It is corporate and community services agenda. The item is 12.3.1, rates concessions. Is there any questions you might have to Mrs. Baxter in regards to this item? No questions? Is there someone prepared to move the motion? Moved by councillor O'Donnell. Would you like to just read it, please, councillor?
I move the officer's recommendation that council grant a concession of $636.50 to the properties as attached and to be included within their 2022-23 rates notice.
Okay, is there a second to the motion? I've got that, yes. Seconded by councillor De Haas. It's moved and seconded. Councillor O'Donnell, do you wish to speak to your motion?
I need to say, councillors, that these properties have no roads, paths and drains, so therefore this makes perfect sense that they have concession with their rates. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Seconder wish to speak to it? Councillor De Haas.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against or an amendment? Councillors, I'll point out that this requires an absolute majority to carry this motion because it is a granting a concession on rates. So I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried 7-0. 5 is an absolute majority. That's correct. Thank you. So we go over the page to page 23 of your agenda, and we have the lease assignment to the request to the mini golf, item 12.3.2. Are there any questions you might have to Mrs. Baxter on this item? No questions? Okay. Someone prepared to move the officer's recommendation, which is on page 24. Councillor De Haas.
I would like to move the recommendation that council, subject to the Southern Ports Authority approval, 1, reassign the sublease with Suzanne and Ian Small for the mini golf portion of lot 1027 the Esplanade, reserve 28207 to Owen Massenbauer, and 2, lease reassignment fee of $220 including GST being payable.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor De Haas. Is there a seconder to the motion? Second by Councillor Flanagan. Thank you. Councillor De Haas, you can speak to your motion.
This is just a simple reassignment of a lease. It will allow the Smalls to get on with their life and for the Massenbauer family to be able to take over and to run their business. So I'm quite happy to do that motion.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Does the seconder wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Flanagan.
Only to put it on the record that just for council to recognise that, you know, that Suzanne and Ian Small have run a good business through really, really difficult times, especially in the last couple of years. And I just hope and wish Owen Massenbauer all the best in taking on the new business. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's, is there a speaker against? No speakers against, no amendment. I'll put to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Thank you, that is carried 7-0. We move on then, councillors, to item 12.3.3, which is the Financial Services Report for June of 2020. The item is on page 27 of your agenda, and the recommendations also on page 27. Are there any questions you might have to Mrs. Baxter on this item? No questions? Someone prepared to move the recommendation then? Councillor O'Donnell.
I move the officer's recommendation that council receive the attached report entitled Monthly Financial Services Report, incorporating the statement of financial activity for the month of June 2022.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor O'Donnell. Is it someone prepared to second it? Councillor De Haas has seconded it. Councillor O'Donnell, you can speak to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing further to add.
Thank you. So, is there a speaker against the motion? Councillor De Haas, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Nothing further to add, thank you.
So I take it there's no one wanting to speak against the motion? So I take it then there's no speaker against or no amendment, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried. 7 votes to 0. We move into executive services, and we have on page 86 of your agenda, we have the information bulletin. Councillors, are there any questions on this item? Any questions would go to Mr. Burge. Any questions? So we're prepared to move the formal recommendation then. Move Councillor Horan.
Yes, I'd like to move officer's recommendation that council accept 1, the information bulletin June 2022, 2, council priority summary corporate performance June 2022, and 3, status report quarterly.
Yeah, just want to add that we did send out a revised one. There was some small changes to it, so unless you want to just add revised in brackets, and then that would just make note that there was some few changes to the ones that were presented in the agenda. Yeah, it's actually.
Yes, I accept that we add the revised, I don't know what date it was. Revised quarter report. Yep.
The revised report. Right, okay.
You want me to read that again, or are you happy with that?
I'll just ask you to run through it again. And our minute secretary is okay? Got corrections, thank you.
Right,
Okay, just read it again then.
Yeah, the officer's recommendation, the council accepts the information bulletin June 2022, 2, revised status report quarterly, and 3, council priority summary corporate performance June 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Horan has moved. Is the seconder? Councillor O'Donnell moved and seconded. Did you you wish to speak to your motion, Councillor Horan?
Just to say that report is very comprehensive. I enjoy looking through that one. It sort of tells us what we've done. It's well presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against? The seconder wishes to speak to the motion. Thank you. Okay. No speakers against? No amendments? I'll put to the vote. Those in favour. Against, that is carried. 7 votes to 0. The next item is item 12.4.2, the Esperance Accommodation Study, and that item commences in your agenda on page 146. Are there any questions you might have to the CEO on this item, councillors? questions? Okay, if there's no questions, is someone prepared to bring a motion to the table in regards to this subject? The officer's recommendation is on page 148. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Graham, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that Council 1 accept the report titled Esperance Accommodation Study, 2 utilise the study to undertake targeted market sounding on proposals, and 3 consider the funding for the 22-23 budget to undertake a business case to compare options, financial analysis and implementation options on a preferred project.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Graham. Is there seconded to the motion? Seconded by Councillor Flanagan. Councillor Graham, you can speak to your motion.
Well, I guess we all understand the issues regarding accommodation in the Esperance area that's built up over the last number of years, and I think it's good that Council have done a study for the requirements for the future. That doesn't mean we, as reported in the news, that we're going to do it all, but it's certainly some good piece of information to encourage and advocate for investment into the housing area for Esperance. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? The second, Councillor Flanagan, would you like to speak in favour of the... All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. I concur with the statements set out by Councillor Graham. Also, that just make the point that the study was the first step in relation to identifying, understanding what the issue is, recommended some options, and I think it's entirely sensible that Council then do some due diligence in relation to how we might progress on the options that were put forward in the study. So market soundings are a good first step, and obviously the development of a business case to understand completely the risk profile and the best pathway forward. So I think that's a good step forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a speaker against the motion? Is there an amendment? I take it you're ready to vote, Councillor, so I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried 7 votes to 0. We go to item 13 now, which is the Bushfire Advisory Committee minutes and recommendations. Councillor Graham has declared a proximity interest on this item, so he leaves the chamber. He's left it now. So this item is on page 149 of our agendas, councillors, and there's a recommendation on page 152. Are there any questions you might have on this one to Mrs. Phillips as the Director of External Services? Any questions? If not, I'd ask, is there someone prepared to move the recommendation? Councillor O'Donnell.
I move the officer's recommendation that council accept the unconfirmed minutes of the Bushfire Advisory Committee, BFAC, held on June 7, 2022 through to number 5.
Okay, so it's moved by Councillor O'Donnell. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Councillor Horan. Councillor O'Donnell, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. President. I think it's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Is there a speaker against the motion? Seconder wish to speak to it?
Through the chair, no, thank you.
Okay, councillors, is there a speaker against or an amendment? No amendments? Take it you're ready to vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried 6 votes to nil. Call councillor Graham back into the meeting, please. Councillor Graham, that motion was carried 6 votes to nil the recommendation as listed. It was carried on those numbers. Thank you. So now, councillors, we go to the issue of motions of which notice has been given. Do we have any motions that are, no motions are here? Okay, so members' questions with or without notice. Are there any councillors wanting to ask questions with or without notice at this time?
Just through the chair, just one, people probably realise our doctor, Wally Burns, is retiring after 42 years. Is there something that council would do, you know, like Premier of the town or something? You've done a great service to town. I don't know whether we do that sort of thing, but which is the question, I'm just putting it forward. Thank you.
I think that everyone in this town recognises the long service of Dr. Byrne, but I can assure you that we are commencing the process of looking at what sort of a warden might be considered for that, and councillors, you'll be asked to make a decision on that in the near future. Okay?
Thank you.
Are there any other questions that that you might want to ask councillors? That was members' questions without notice. So then we go to item 16, which is urgent business approved by decision. Has any councillor got any matter that they want to bring up at this stage to raise? If there's not, I'll take it. Then we move on to matters behind closed doors. Yeah, we can take a motion. So my apologies.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we move behind closed doors for the.
Okay,
Please.
moved by councillor Graham, seconded by councillor McMullen. So it's moved and it's seconded. Put to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried.
Forgot what they were called. Confidential items.
We
The
all
pregnant
do
pause.
So we're back online. So just welcome back those people that are watching this online. Council has just come out from behind closed doors. We dealt with two subjects during the behind closed doors. One was a pre-qualified supplier panel for building services, which was carried 7 votes to nil. And the second item, item 17.2 on the agenda, was for the public CCTV stages 2, 3 and 4 for the supply and implementation of that program, and that was supported 7 votes to nil. And so that concludes our meeting, and I thank all those that are watching online, and thank you for being with us again. We will now declare the meeting closed and go offline. Thank you.